I've always been a bit of a workaholic. It's not that I love my job, it's just that I don't have much else to do. My life is like a dimly lit office building, filled with endless cubicles of mundane tasks and soul-sucking routines. But tonight, something unusual happened that turned my monotonous existence into a chilling nightmare. It was Friday, the end of a long week. My co-workers had all left hours ago, their cheerful goodbyes echoing in the hallways. I stayed behind as usual, drowning in the glow of my computer screen. The office was eerily silent. The hum of the fluorescent lights was the only sound, accompanied by the rhythmic tapping of my keyboard. As I typed away, a feeling of unease crept over me. I glanced at the clock in the corner of my screen. It was already 10:30 p.m, much later than I'd realised. I decided it was time to call it a night, shut down my computer, and began to gather my things. But when I stood up from my desk, I noticed something strange. The usually bustling office floor was now completely empty. I blinked, thinking that maybe I was just teary-eyed, my eyes playing tricks on me. I grabbed my coat and made my way toward the exit, but when I reached the hallway, I froze. The lights were flickering ominously, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. My heart pounded as I realised I was the only person left in the entire building. The office, which had been my second home for years, was now a dark and forbidding maze. Fear gnawed at my stomach as I retraced my steps, heading back to my desk. I couldn't have been the only one left, could I? My phone buzzed with a message, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was a text from Sarah, my co-worker. Sarah: "Hey, forgot my laptop charger in the office. Be there in a sec." Relief washed over me as I quickly replied, "Me too, I'm in the office. We can grab our stuff together." But as I hit send, I realised something was terribly wrong. My message didn't show the usual delivered notification. In fact, my phone had no signal at all. Panic started to set in. I decided to check the time on my computer. It read 10:32 p.m, the exact same time as when I last looked. The clock had frozen. My pulse quickened as I tried to make sense of what was happening. I headed to the stairwell thinking I'd go down to the lobby and figure out what was going on. But when I reached the stairwell door, it refused to budge. It was as if I was trapped inside the building. A sense of dread washed over me, and I began to feel claustrophobic. Desperate for answers, I went to the nearest window and peered outside. The city streets were deserted, not a single car or person in sight. It was as if the world had disappeared, leaving me alone in this empty office building. I returned to my desk and tried to call 911, but my phone remained stubbornly devoid of signal. Fear turned into pure terror as I realised I was completely isolated, cut off from the outside world. The office, once a place of familiarity and routine, had become a nightmarish labyrinth. Hours passed, or maybe it was just minutes. Time seemed to stretch and warp in this eerie place. I wandered through the office, desperately searching for any sign of life, but all I found were empty desks and silent hallways. As the night wore on, I began to hear strange noises. Whispers echoed in the darkness, and I could swear I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. The office was coming to life, but not in any way that made sense. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on grotesque shapes, and the flickering lights seemed to mock my fear. I huddled in a corner, clutching my phone and hoping for some sign of normalcy, but then I heard it. A soft, eerie melody. It was the sound of a child humming, coming from somewhere deep within the office. My blood ran cold. I followed the haunting melody, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. It led me to the break room, where I found a child sitting at one of the tables. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with long dark hair that obscured her face. She continued to hum that eerie tune, her voice sending shivers down my spine. "Hello?" I stammered, my voice trembling. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The child didn't respond, her humming growing louder and more frantic. I took a step closer, reaching out to touch her shoulder, but as my hand made contact, she suddenly stopped humming and turned to me. Her face was a grotesque mask of decay and rot, her eyes empty voids. A guttural, inhuman growl emanated from her as she lunged at me. I screamed and stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding her grasp. I ran through the office, my heart pounding in my chest as the child pursued me with unnatural speed. I had no choice but to hide in a dark, abandoned conference room, praying she wouldn't find me. Hours passed, and I remained hidden, trembling with fear. The office had become a nightmare, a place of unspeakable horrors. I didn't know if I would ever escape, if I would ever see the light of day again. As dawn broke, the office gradually returned to its usual state. My co-workers began to arrive, their cheerful greetings and laughter filling the air. It was as if the nightmarish events of the previous night had never happened. I approached my co-workers, desperate for answers, but they looked at me with confusion. None of them remembered staying late or the eerie child in the break room. It was as if I had been trapped in a parallel world, a twisted version of the office I knew. I left the office that morning, shaken to my core, vowing never to return, but the memory of that night still haunts me, a chilling reminder that in the most ordinary of places, the most terrifying nightmares can come to life.